You know, it's funny. We hear these vows, right? In sickness and in health, but what happens when it's like really serious, like life-altering illness, you know?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at today, a proposed series, and it goes deep on a tough one. Abandonment, when someone's terminally ill.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
No kidding. It's called In Sickness and in Health, Understanding Abandonment in Terminal Illness. And I got to say, just reading the proposal, well, let's just say it's going to stay with me for a bit.
It's one of those things people don't want to talk about.
Taboo, almost, right?
Exactly. But it does happen, more than you might think.
That's the thing. You hear these stories. Someone battling a terminal illness, going through all these awful treatments, and the person they thought would be there,
Yeah.
they just disappear.
Right.
Emotionally, sometimes even physically. It's just awful. It's tough to wrap your head around. And I think that's what this series wants to explore.
And to be fair, it's rarely a clear-cut situation. The series talks about that, how this isn't just about people being callous or heartless. Caregiving, especially with terminal illness, it takes a massive toll.
Oh, absolutely.
Financially, emotionally, even just the logistics of it all.
It's all-consuming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then layer on the emotional weight of watching someone you love just deteriorate. It's a breeding ground for resentment, exhaustion, and sometimes, sadly, people break. It's just too much.
Makes you think twice about those vows, huh?
Doesn't it?
Like, in sickness and in health sounds great on paper, right? When it's hypothetical. But this series, they really want to dissect it. How do couples actually live that? You know, where does it work? Where does it fall apart? Is it the individuals? Is it the relationship itself?
And that's where things get interesting, because they talk about the role of fear and denial. Everyone processes illness differently, but they focus a lot on men in this context.
Which that can be tricky territory, right?
It can.
Because it's easy to say, oh, men, they're wired to run away.
Yeah.
But is it that simple?
It's more nuanced, for sure.
Like, we're letting them off the hook if we just say it's biology, right?
Right.
But then you think about societal expectations. Men are told to be strong, don't show weakness, all that. So is it any surprise some of them just retreat further into themselves? Like a defense mechanism, even if it comes off as cold or uncaring.
That's a good point. It's about understanding those ingrained responses and how we communicate or don't communicate in the face of fear. And the series even suggests that sometimes these breakdowns aren't solely because of the illness itself, but more like the illness is a magnifier.
Oh, I like that.
It's magnifying pre-existing cracks that were already there in the relationship's foundation.
It's like, what's it like ignoring the check engine light in your car? You can keep driving for a while, but eventually...
It catches up.
Exactly. And it feels like such a good metaphor for relationships in general, don't you think?
Absolutely.
We all have those little warning signs we choose to ignore. And what this series seems to be doing is like holding up a mirror. It's asking us, how strong are your foundations? You know, how do you deal with fear, with tough conversations? Because it's going to happen.
Right, to all of us at some point.
Yeah.
And they don't shy away from the fallout either. They're interviewing a counselor, someone who works with people who've been through this, the person who feels abandoned, the one who felt forced to be the caregiver. The emotional impact is huge.
Oh, I bet.
And it made me realize this isn't just about romantic couples, you know, these dynamics. They play out in families all the time.
Oh, totally. Parents, siblings, even close friends.
Exactly.
So it's not all like doom and gloom, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the series plans to feature stories of couples who did face this head on together.
Yes. Finding that resilience.
Right. So there's hope in there, too, that it can be done, even if it's messy and painful.
For sure. And to round things out, they're bringing in a cultural critic.
Interesting. What for?
To look at how the media portrays all this. Because how much of what we consider typical male or female responses, is it really biological, or is it just the stories we've been fed?
Ooh, good point. Like, are we perpetuating stereotypes, or are we reflecting real societal expectations? It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is, and it makes you wonder how much of our own behavior is influenced by these narratives, even if we don't realize it.
Subconsciously, yeah.
Exactly. Though, you know what's really got me thinking? There's this glaring omission in their proposal.
Oh, what's that?
They never flip the script.
Meaning?
What about when women are the ones facing a terminal illness? How do they react? Do they withdraw? Become more demanding? We, as a society, seem so quick to slap gender roles on everything.
We do, don't we?
But I bet the reality is way more complex. That's a whole nother deep dive waiting to happen, in my opinion.
It totally is. And on that note, listeners, I hope this has given you a lot to think about. Even if you're not dealing with a serious illness right now, this stuff, It's about relationships, how we communicate, how we show up for each other when things get tough.
Couldn't agree more.
And sometimes it's those hard conversations that lead to the most growth.